It's gonna be the fucking thumbnail.
Hello everybody! Welcome to episode 8 of Why Would You Show Me This? I am Will.
I'm Dani.
And this week Dani brought the movie, so I will give it over to Dani.
So I picked The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And I will read the back. The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert is proof that sometimes all you need for a good time is the right friends, the right music, and the right outfits. In an acting turn hailed by Rolling Stone as one of the best performances of the year, Terrence Stamp plays Bernadette, a drag queen about to relive her theatrical glory days with two young friends on one wild road trip. Billed for a gig in rural Alice Springs, smack in the middle of Australia, the trio hits the highway in a bus dubbed Priscilla. Should I read the rest of this?
Sure,
Okay.
why not?
Their act might be fly in civilized Sydney, but the outrageous costumes, disco music, and dancing is getting some pretty interesting feedback at every stop along the way. Bernie, Mitzi, and Felicia are finding out that you can't shock anyone these days, but you can have fun trying.
Yes, you can. And I just want to mention this. First VHS on the podcast.
It's important to you.
It's important. This is, yeah. So, yes. Priscilla, I really liked it.
Did you?
I liked it a lot. Everybody that probably knows this movie also knows Tu Wong Fu, because they were both released around the same time. I had never seen this, but I saw Tu Wong Fu when I was younger. I liked that a lot. And now, having watched this, I think that Priscilla is the better movie of the two.
Oh.
I feel that Priscilla goes to darker places, more real places than Tu Wong Fu does. Not to bash Tu Wong Fu, I still like that movie as well. But this one just feels more real, where Tu Wong Fu feels more family friendly, Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Feels more Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I really liked it a lot. Everybody was really great in it. It's funny to see Terrence Stamp as that character.
Yes.
He's not the best looking drag queen.
No, but
but truthfully, there's only really Guy Pearce is the only I don't know. Maybe they all aren't so great.
I don't know. I think Hugo makes a great drag queen.
Hugo,
his facial expressions.
His facial expressions are fantastic.
Yeah.
He looks scary most of the time.
I know. I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what he was supposed to look like. But yeah, he definitely looks like he's scared or angry half of the movie when he's in drag.
So I feel like we should bring up that Terrence Stamp's character isn't necessarily a drag queen.
Drag queen. Well, that's true. Terrence Stamp, which also this struck me because this movie was made in 1994, and maybe it's just because I was young. You didn't hear a lot about it, but Terrence Stamp's character is transsexual. And he, as far as I remember from the dialogue, she has had her surgery.
Yes, and is taking hormones.
Yeah, taking hormones. But yeah, that's I can't think of a film earlier than this in my memory that talks about a trans person. Which I don't know. Maybe that was lost when this originally came out because the drag queen aspect and the gay aspect came out a lot more.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy that was brought up in the movie, and also Terrence Stamp, Bernadette's love interest in the movie was one of our favorite parts.
Yeah, definitely.
Bob,
yes.
Bob is a fantastic character. Bob's a good guy. But yeah, we're going far into it. So they are going on this road trip, and they come across certain hardships, if you will.
The reason for the trip, however, is mostly centered around Hugo Weaving's character.
Yes, he's definitely the
Mitzi.
main character. It's so funny because you read the back of this, and the first thing they talk about is Bernadette.
Mm-hmm.
But Bernadette is not the main character.
Not really.
Not in my eyes at all. The main character is
Mitzi.
Mitzi, yes, Mitzi. Hugo Weaving's character.
Yeah, so the trip is to go to Alice Springs, where Hugo Weaving's, or Mitzi's, wife...
His wife.
His wife lives there. His wife lives there and wants him and his friends to come perform there. To which, he obviously says yes. He also reveals to the other two that he also has a son.
He does not do that.
Oh, he does not?
No.
Oh.
He doesn't realize he has a son until he goes and he does the performance, and then he sees his son in the audience, right?
No.
No? That's not his realization?
No, because there's a whole snippet flashback scene where he's in drag.
Oh, yeah.
When his son is born.
Yeah,
so yes, he's very aware of his son's existence.
Never mind.
Yeah. So he lets them know, that he's married. He
Which, that
happens during the trip, because I remember the bus stop comes
Yes.
to a stop, and they're like, excuse
They're like,
me.
what?
Yeah.
That's actually one of my... that precedes one of my favorite lines in the movie where... Guy Pearce's character is asking Mitzi, like, so you're straight? And he says, fuck no. And he goes, so you're bi? He's like, I don't fucking know. I like that line a lot.
Yeah, so he, and also Mitzi, is based on a real person.
Yes.
Who was also...
Cindy Pastel?
Yeah.
Cindy Pastel, yeah.
Yeah, who was also... a drag queen, also had a wife and a son as well. So, so that's the reason for the road trip, is for them to go and perform in Alice Springs, and for him to see his son, because I think it's been quite some time since he's actually seen him, since he's been born.
Yeah.
So.
It's 8 years. I think he's 8 years old
Yeah.
in the movie. So
That's the whole reason for the trip, and of course, things happen along the way. They're in a giant tour bus, so to speak, which is the name, and what the movie gets its name from is the name of the bus. Actually, is Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yes, which it's funny. I had heard the name of this movie before ever seeing it, and I always thought Priscilla was a character.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never, the moment we get into it and they say that the bus is Priscilla, I'm like,
Yes.
oh, what? Okay.
So, they have stops along the way, because the bus has a tendency to break down and
Yes.
not work.
Actually, and the bus breaking down leads to probably my favorite scene in the movie, where the bus is broken down, they're in the middle of the Australian desert, and they decide just to work on their act.
Yes.
And they're working on their act, and then just an Aboriginal fellow comes over, and he's just watching them, and he seems to like it, and he invites them over to where he is, and there's this big old party going on. Everybody's playing music and stuff, and then they proceed to do their act for everyone, and then everybody gets super into it, and the guy that saw them earlier gets dressed up and drag himself and dances with them.
Yep, they have a good old time.
It's a really great scene. Yeah.
I can't remember, because when they're broken down there is when they actually end up finding Bob.
Yeah, they find Bob afterwards. I think they find Bob. Yeah, the Aboriginal people know Bob, and then he comes out and helps them.
Yeah, so Bob is one of the best characters. We love Bob.
Oh, Bob's great. Bob's a great guy. Bob is a guy where you see him and you think that he would be so mean to these people, and he's not at all. He's very, very supportive, and he likes what they do. He even he brings them back for dinner, and he talks about seeing the lay girls. Back when he was younger, and that is Bernadette was a lay girl at one point.
Back in her heyday, she was one of the original lay girls, which Guy Pearce, Felicia informs Bob, and Bob gets very excited.
Bob is very
happy.
excited, yes. And he wants them to then perform down at his
the bar.
Down at his bar.
we also, during the dinner scene, get introduced to his wife.
We do get introduced to his wife, who performs in a way herself.
Yes, she does. And you notice as she tries to like usually sing or perform or whatever she's going to do, Bob has a tendency to stop her right away.
He
and
does.
Be like, no.
Yes.
They perform, not you,
Yes.
is what he literally says.
There's a reason for that, and
yes,
if you haven't seen the movie, just go watch the movie.
Yeah, because we're not going to tell you.
No, you should go pretty blind in on that one.
That's something you need to experience yourself, because
Yeah.
it's hilarious and horrible.
Yes.
And it's a good time.
Yes.
So anyway, after all of that night goes down, she ends up actually leaving Bob that morning, remember?
She leaves Bob,
and so Bob is kind of like, I guess I'll, like, hang out with you guys. So he ends up going with them on the bus.
Yes, which then leads to one of the real darker things in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
We actually passed one of them, the thing that's written on the side of their bus.
Yes, before they take off.
Yes, which is AIDS fuckers go home.
Yes.
So right off the bat, within the first 20-30 minutes of the movie, we're getting into the real stuff. The things that this is a comedy film.
Yes.
But it is trying to bring awareness to certain things. It
definitely has a message.
Oh,
it
yeah.
It has stuff that it wants to say.
Yes.
So.
And we actually, after the film, we watched a documentary about the film called Between a Frock and a Hard Place. Yeah, which is a line from the movie. And that really taught us about the discrimination against gay people in Australia, and how at a certain time you would get more jail time for engaging in a gay sexual act than you would for even rape. So watching the movie is one thing, but then having watched the documentary and learning more about the culture there and how much gay people were oppressed, it adds a lot to the movie. For me, definitely. But yeah, this movie it gets real. Your laughs come to a dead stop at certain scenes.
During certain scenes.
For sure.
So they're traveling. At one point, speaking of real stuff, since we're on that subject, there is a point in which Guy Pearce's character, Felicia, ends up kind of going off by herself while in drag.
Yes.
To I think like a video store.
Well, that's what I was talking about. That's the real that was the real scene that I was talking about. But yeah, he basically, Bob warns him.
Yeah.
Bob, where they're going, Bob knows the place well. He has some friends there. And he tells them these people aren't very open-minded in a certain set of words. And then, of course, Guy Pearce, Felicia, his character is very, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna do it anyways. He's very boisterous, though it's kind of all of a put on.
It's a bravado.
It's a bravado in many ways. But he finds some drugs and he goes anyway. And it actually doesn't go as bad as it could have.
No, it could have definitely gotten really bad.
Yeah, which I think is a very good thing that they did in the film, because as much as the movie has a message, it wants to portray real things, it's not trying to go into a bleak territory.
No.
It's a small moment of this is the real world. All this stuff with the drag queens in the desert, this is a fictional story, but this is real, and this happens often. But it's just a split second. It's just to get that in you, and just to give you that information, and then we're back to actually the next scene after that, which is really great, because Bernadette is very annoyed by Felicia throughout most of the movie. But after this scene where Felicia is attacked, Bernadette is very warm to him, and while Mitzi is not.
Mitzi kind of reprimands
him.
Mitzi's
like, why did you take drugs and do this? He's kind of like, you shouldn't have done that. But Bernadette is very understanding and like holds him, and he says, this this is a time. Let this strengthen you. Don't let this.
I think it represents the two sides of what gay people who get attacked for that experience, where their community is very warm and welcoming and understands because they've been through it and that kind of thing, and then the other side of it obviously are people who blame the person instead of blaming the person who did it. They blame the person because they were dressed a certain way.
Yeah, you shouldn't have did that.
Like, it's your fault because you did this. Yeah, you brought this on yourself.
Yeah, it's more like you know how they are, so you shouldn't have done that, instead of they shouldn't be like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it represents the two different sides. Which I appreciate. Yeah, which,
luckily, I believe the scene right after that, Mitzi apologizes, because it wasn't the right stance to have at all. But
it's just kind of, I'm sure it's Mitzi also just regurgitating what's been said to her a bunch.
Yeah, of course. You know I mean, the opening scene of the film is Mitzi performing, and then right at the end of the performance, somebody throws a can at her head. So we're brought into the world of non-acceptance right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So later on, I think after that we finally get to the place that we get to Alice Springs where they're supposed to perform, right?
Yes, and we meet the mother of Mitzi's child, and they have their performance, which is a really great performance, and they have
wonderful.
They have 5 different costume changes.
Yes, they do.
And that's where he faints at seeing his son.
Yes. Well, he sees his son in the audience.
Yes.
Even though I think he was under the impression that his wife wasn't going to allow him to be there.
Yes.
So
yes.
He's shocked by that.
Yes. Before we just start talking about the end of the movie, though, I am interested, since I saw Tu Wong Fu when I was probably very young. Okay. I would say under 10. Mm-hmm. When did you first see this?
Probably around the same time, to be honest.
Same time? Did you see Tu Wong Fu also, or did you just see... Okay, so you saw both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as a kid, did you have a preference between the two?
I liked Priscilla.
Yeah? Yeah. Even as a kid, you gravitated towards that more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... I keep going back to this, and I don't want to keep pitting them against one another. It's just they're so similar, and it was so interesting to read, because every time we watch a movie... as long as there's time after, because sometimes we watch the movie and come right in here and do the discussion, other times not, depending on, and so if I have time, I like to look up the movie and read trivia about it, anything that I can, and to read that this movie, when this was coming out, Tu Wong Fu was already in production. Mm-hmm. So it was just like it was kind of like the same thing where you had Volcano, and what was that other movie in the 90s? It was like I don't know. It was like two very, very, very similar movies coming out at the same time.
That's happened a bunch.
It happens a lot. Every once in a while, every few years, it'd be like 2 people get the same idea, and it just comes right in, and 2 of these movies come out that are very, very, very similar. Mm-hmm. And these movies are very similar. Just I think the tone of them is very different, but I forget what point I was going to, but it's just I just wanted to know when you first saw this. I guess that's my whole thing is when did this first come into your life, and how did it form anything in your life? Like, is this the first time you ever heard of drag queens? This movie?
I don't know.
No?
I can't remember when the first time was, because my sister is older than I am, and therefore I got exposed to stuff, like this. Like, that's the whole reason I know these 2 movies, is because of my sister. She liked them. She was older, and therefore I watched them, and I'm like, no, this is great. Because, I'm also a huge fan of makeup and costuming and all that good stuff.
Of course. Anyone who follows Dani online, you know that.
So, of course, this was something that really, appealed to me even then, and especially now. Yeah. Because, I love the trivia about these costumes. The fact that There's a very specific costume in this where Hugo is wearing what is referred to as a thong dress. And apparently that only cost $7 to make. And they got all the materials to make it from Target, which is pretty amazing.
What was the term that they used for drag queen outfits, where you basically get whatever you need, whatever you can get your hands on, and make an outfit out of it?
I know what it is.
I can't remember. In the documentary they said it. I can't remember the term, but it really, when I heard that was a thing.
Is it like from rock to croc or something?
Something like that. Yeah,
something like that.
Because in one of the scenes, Mitzi is wearing a dress made of flip-flops.
Yes.
And while we were watching the movie, I was like, that dress made of flip-flops?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand. But then hearing that was a thing where it's just you took what you could get your hands on and made your own drag queen outfit, it made a hell of a lot more sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also know that for some of the costumes that were made, especially for their costumes that they wore during the hotel performance that they do, was in part made by prison inmates, because I guess somebody working on the movie knew the art teacher in one of the local prisons, so they basically outsourced some of the costume making to prison inmates, which I think is actually kind of amazing.
Well,
to think about prison inmates sitting there gluing on multicolored pom-poms onto a dress or something to that nature is just an amazing visual.
It's
and
great.
I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, they did a lot of things where they really made their budget work.
Yes, they did.
They did that. You had told me earlier that so the bus in the film, they paint over the horrible message that was spray painted on there.
Yes.
And they paint it lavender as Felicia corrected Mitzi.
Yes, so there's a scene in which he's painting the side of the bus, and they each take a turn guessing like what color it is until finally Felicia says it's lavender.
Yeah, Mitzi says it's purple, and he says no, it's lavender.
It's lavender specifically.
But they also then repaint the bus pink at a certain time. So to save on painting the bus twice, they painted one side purple and one side pink.
Yes, and then just filmed it from the side thing.
Which is fantastic. I love it. Any stories like that where somebody's saving budget costs, I'm down for it.
Something that I thought was really interesting in the documentary, that they talk a lot about, I feel like, in the documentary, is how afraid Terrence Stamp was of playing this role. Yeah,
he definitely, he couldn't get it right for like a few weeks, it sounded like.
Yeah, and he was like, and the thing was is that the whole crew knew he was afraid.
Yeah. Well, he admitted it. Mm-hmm. I mean, which is funny. The funny thing to me is that the fear didn't go away until they did that scene at Bob's bar, or Bob's local bar. Mm-hmm. Apparently he said that he did that scene, and then he went over to the director and he said, I've crossed the threshold.
Yeah, I've crossed the barriers.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of anything anymore.
Yeah. Which I totally understand.
Yeah, which is great. And Terrence Stamp actually narrates the documentary as well.
Part of the reason that Terrence Stamp was so afraid of that moment, by the way, was they were performing for extras that they'd hired. However, these extras were real miners in the town that they had hired. So these weren't necessarily men who they expected to be super accepting of this kind of thing. So, I mean, they have a certain level of protection because, of course, these people know they're being filmed and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody's going to be attacked or anything, but it's still, that's a very daunting task.
Yes.
And I understand, I really feel like I understand, especially as a performer, having gone through that, and then at the end of it, just being like, I can do anything. Like, if I can do that, I can do anything. So I love the fact that that's what helped him cross over and was like, I'm great, I'm fine. I got this. So that's great.
Yeah. It also brings a lot to the close-ups of the extras that they get.
Yes. Oh my God.
when you know that they're real mine workers.
Yeah, that you can tell, and they're not super entertained.
No.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Because that's what's needed for that scene.
Oh yeah, totally.
Great.
Yeah.
I feel like we should talk about one of the best moments in the film is the moment between Hugo and his
son. Oh yeah, it's great. It's a very heartwarming moment. It's basically him coming out to his son. In so many words.
She's dreaded this entire time.
Yes.
He knew kind of that he had to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the kid's great. Like, immediately the kid is so welcoming and nice and accepting, like, right away. And so, what happens is, he, after his kid sees him perform the next day, they're kind of at, like, this rock quarry, just the two of them. And the kid's, like, skipping stones. And he's dressed himself up, as straight, essentially.
Yeah, he looks like he's a tour guide to take you out on the wild...
It's a lot of khaki.
Yeah.
So, but he's doing, he's got no makeup on, he looks like just a regular guy. And I think he's even drinking a beer while he's with his son. I don't know. He's drinking something. Anyway, he's trying to act especially masculine in front of his son. And at one point he just asks his son, "You know what I am, right?"
Yeah.
And
but the son also does not really answer.
No.
The only thing he says is, "When we get back to Sydney, will you have a boyfriend?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the whole, like, there's an understanding there at this point. He doesn't give a shit. Because
he answers him and he goes, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably. Like, he doesn't really know how to answer it.
Yeah.
And then his kid just goes, "That's good." So, I mean, it's very obvious that his kid just wants him to be happy.
Yes.
And that's what matters to his kid, which is great.
Yes.
Good kudos to the mom, obviously, for raising such a great and accepting kid and an open-minded kid like that. Because in Australia, it's especially hard, I feel like, during that time.
Yes. Yeah. Because that was... I mean, I don't know if that was supposed to be set present time, like 90s, early 90s.
I feel like it was.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't have been.
Yeah, because it's from the documentary, it sounded like
it was being made during the time. A lot of that was happening.
Yes, and then things didn't get real better until a little bit after that.
Yeah. But the movie basically ends with them being especially adorned and costumed, and going up to the spot they were initially supposed to, in full drag regalia, of course. And the hike to that is hilarious. Like, I love Hugo's face as he passes the camera because he's so over it.
He's done.
It's so funny.
He's like, wait, why did we want to do this?
Well, my favorite thing is that, I mean, and this makes sense, obviously, is that they're wearing these, like, glamorous costumes. They've got their makeup done and their hair and all that stuff, but they're wearing hiking boots because they have to, because they're hiking these rocks and stuff, right? So it's a great juxtaposition between their boots and their socks and their costumes, which is shot that way, I feel, on purpose to show that. And then finally when they get to the spot, they take it all in, and then they basically all realize that they want to go home.
Yeah. We did it. We can go
we did
now.
We did it, and we can go. We accomplished it.
Yeah.
So, and the interesting thing is that in the end, Mitzi ends up staying at the hotel. Not Mitzi, sorry.
Bob. Oh,
Bob
Bernadette.
and Bernadette.
Bernadette and Bob, yes.
Yeah, because Mitzi's wife, Hugo Weaving's wife, apparently needed an event coordinator anyway. So Bernadette...
This was set in stone earlier. She said weeks ago.
She said weeks ago. She talked to me weeks ago.
Yeah.
So she had this in mind the whole time, I guess.
Yes.
And didn't tell them.
Yes.
But they're fine with it. They're sad about it.
Yeah.
But they're glad that she's happy. Because it's very obvious that her and Bob are going to probably be a thing, which is very nice.
Yep.
And not Mitzi. I keep saying Mitzi.
Bernadette?
Bernadette has her place.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah.
It's a good end to the movie.
It is. It's great. There's many memorable scenes in the movie. It's very funny.
Lots of good music.
Good music.
You're like, sure.
It's not my type of music, but it's fine.
If you like dance music.
There's a great scene in which involves ABBA and Felicia's necklace.
Yes.
You come into the scene and you see the thing and you're like, what is that? What's that necklace? And then as they talk, you're like, no, it's not. And then it is. And it's
great.
It's great. It's my second favorite scene of the film.
It's really funny.
But yes, please watch this movie. Maybe not a VHS copy. Probably see if you can find a Blu-ray, because this one the colors were a little washed out and
we couldn't hear.
It was a little hard to hear. The track with the background music and the sound effects was higher than the dialogue. Yes. I don't know whether that was our VCR or the VHS. Watch it. Find it, watch it. It's a great movie. I'm glad Dani picked this one for this episode.
I'm glad you liked it. So I guess you got to give it a rating.
Yes,
right?
You have to rate this. I would give it probably 8 out of 10.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
That's good.
What about you?
That's pretty high. I mean, it's still like a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. It's a great one. Highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
There's not. I don't think there. I don't get how you can say you don't like this movie, unless you just have something against drag queens.
You don't like Joy?
Yeah, I mean it's like another thing that the director had talked about in the documentary. What's his name? Stephen Elliott. He had said that if he had just made a pro-gay movie and just a kind of in-your-face message, he doesn't think anybody would have seen it or paid attention to it. But because he made a comedy film about, as he put it, 3 clowns and the things that they go through, and then he puts that message also in there. I think it definitely works for everyone, because there's funny things, there's heartfelt things, and it really doesn't matter who you are, what you subscribe to. It's just a human movie.
Yeah, it's about life.
Yeah. So please watch it.
Yeah, watch it.
All right. So I think after this one we're gonna have another guest. And it will be a very, very, very different movie from this one. But I'm looking forward to it. So thank you guys for watching and or listening.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Again, let me just throw this out there. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can also watch a video version over on YouTube. Just youtube.com/Will Krupinski. And vice versa. If you're watching it on my YouTube channel, you can also listen to it if you'd rather.
You don't have to look at us.
You don't have to. Let's stress that fact.
Yeah.
You don't have to stare at our faces.
You don't.
Just block them out and just listen to our voices.
Yeah.
If they're any better at all.
Yeah. And if you don't like either, then just mute it.
If you don't like either, mute it. My nose is running now.
That's good news.
Let me fix that. Thank you guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.